Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. And the Rajasthan Royals have beaten the Lucknow Super Giants by 3 runs. Quite a close win this, and I don't know how the Super Giants did manage to win this game. I mean, they made life difficult for themselves with the bat, and even then they only lost by 3 runs, so they really should have won this game. And they also made life difficult for themselves in the field. And uh, there's an obvious dropped catch that I will be referring to when I talk about the first innings in detail. Had that been taken, then this would have been a paltry chase considering the lack of batting depth in this Rajasthan Royals lineup. So yeah, I think that considering that, again they just made lives difficult for themselves. And for the Rajasthan Royals, they follow the exact same bowling template as the desired bowling template of the Kolkata Knight Riders. It's a very unsustainable one, and I've said this in previous videos. It's a very unsustainable one, and they lost their last game against RCB because it predictably didn't work. And for KKR today, they were playing on such a belter of a track that they pretty much didn't have a chance to execute that template. Even before a ball was bowled, I mean, it was that good of a surface. Delhi scoring 215, and again, KKR were at a disadvantage even before a ball was bowled. And so, a very unsustainable template. But what these two teams try and do is that if they just dismantle the opposition before the 15th over, and if they concede runs to the death, which they probably will, there's one of two things happen. So if they're batting first, then they'll only be chasing 130 odd because they'll do so well in their first 15 overs. And if they're defending a score, if they concede runs of the death, it wouldn't matter because they would have done so well in their first 15 that they would have dismantled the opposition before then. And an example of this would be Rajasthan was first game of the season against the Sunrisers. And considering that, the Lucknow Super Giants could have thought, if we just weathered the storm, we've got the best batting spine in the competition. We bat down to number 8. Shamira can also hit a long ball. Although you wouldn't exactly want to go that far. So you bat down to number 8. You've got some quality batsmen in your side. If they had just weathered the storm and then thought, Rajasthan Royals don't have a sixth bowler in this 11. Their death bowling is terrible. And we could just keep that in mind, and we could set our sights on victory when the time comes, and that time would have certainly come like it did for RCB. And that's why I had them favourites to win, even though they were 14 for 3, because the next 3 batsmen, as well as the pair batting at that point, I mean, the next 3 batsmen being Ayush Badoni, Kunal Pandya, Marcus Stoinis. So that is a quality next 3, especially with Marcus Stoinis bizarrely batting at number 8, and I'll get to what I thought of that in my detailed review of the second innings. But yeah, I think that considering that the Lucknow Super Giants should have won this game, I don't know how they didn't manage to win this, and I'll get to the intricacies of the game as I go along. So regarding the starting 11s of these teams, the Rajasthan was making 2 changes. One change which I thought that I was happy that they made this change. I mean, I would have probably made that change for Devdutt Padikkal because I thought that with Jaiswal, he can give those aggressive starts at the top with Josh Butler. If you've got an explosive top 5 with Jaiswal at the top and Van der Dussen at 4, that it really is that each player can continue where the other one left off. I thought with Padikkal batting at 4 with Jaiswal in the side, I've said this before, the innings just got a bit stuck, and if he bats at 3, then it doesn't do justice to the form that Sanju Samson's in. And that's why, I thought that them making the change was a good one. And the next change being Kuldeep Sen in for Navdeep Saini. Navdeep Saini hadn't offered them anything at the death, and Kuldeep Sen, I'd heard his name the first time from when Rohan Gavaskar was on commentary. He mentioned his name and said he bowls express pace. He bowled really quick today. And that's why I understand why they just wanted to give him a try, because they don't exactly have any cures to their death bowling. They have Obed McCoy, but apart from that, with the players that they were playing today, I think, Butler, Van der Dussen, Hetmyer and Bolt, I mean, that's their 4 overseas players. They couldn't find a way to fit that second overseas seamer. And yeah, that's pretty much on this 11. And before I start off with the Rajasthan Royals innings, I'd like to say one thing, and I'm happy they included Van der Dussen, but it's that it's a thing where it really improves a situation in the middle order that they have, and they have this explosive top five, especially if they play Jaiswal up top alongside Josh Butler. But does it solve a problem? Well, if you look at the other change they could have made, it would have probably solved more of a problem. I think they don't have a sixth bowler. With Rian Parag not bowling and batting in this game at number 7, although he's originally slated to bat at number 6, I think that they don't exactly have a sixth bowler, and that they give so many runs at the death. Jimmy Neesham at that number 6 will probably provide more pedigree at that position, and some overs as well with the ball at a regular basis. I think that would probably be a change that would solve a more of a problem, because I think that if you have Padikkal batting at 4, yes, it's not ideal, but again, you still have a solid top 6 with Jimmy Neesham in the side. So that's something which maybe they'd want to think about, but I'll get to that in detail as I go along. And for the Lucknow Super Giants, 2 changes. Marcus Stoinis rightly in for Evan Lewis. I thought that they need this team. They need all the bowling options they can get. It still looks good, but with Avesh Khan leading the death bowling duties, how is he going to go? He hasn't exactly got that quality of bowling spot on so far in the tournament, albeit some of his figures are good. And that's why I thought Marcus Stoinis, with his batting ability, and he can bowl a bit at the death as well, I thought they would have needed him, and I was surprised he didn't bowl today. And I was really happy that Dushmantha Chameera was back in for Andrew Tye. I mean, and even more happy that he bowled 3 overs up front, and I would have personally bowled him for 4 overs up front, although his 4th over didn't really affect proceedings in a negative way for the Super Giants at all. All in all, none for 22 in his 4, he was outstanding. I was really happy that they played him, because on these kind of conditions, with the potency he provided with the new ball, it's a no-brainer to play him. So that was on the side. It looks a very good side indeed. And the Super Giants won the toss and chose to bowl first. So the start was, I think, the stage where things really picked up, I thought, were Josh Butler's over his hitting against Jason Holder, a 6 down the ground, and a 4 straight after that through, I think, just behind square. And the first over of the game was excellent. I mean, yes, they went for 9 runs, and that too was because of an overthrow, because one of the boundaries was off the outside edge, and the other one was an overthrow from Ravi Bishnoi, because this was a top-class over from Dushmantha Chameera, unsurprisingly. There was a case where Padikkal was given out, but in the end the decision was overturned. So a very good over to set the tone. And from the second over, they kind of really started to get things going in the power play. They scored overall above 8 runs per over in the power play, especially for the first 5 overs. And some of the shots that they've played, I thought Padikkal, at the start of his innings, he really accelerated nicely. And they really, at the start, he was taking a toe on Ravi Bishnoi. He hit a great shot down the ground from Chameera. And also Jason Holder in this game had a very off game with the ball, and Josh Butler that took that into his own hands. So the start was really good for the Rajasthan Royals, but unfortunately for them, Butler being dismissed by Avesh Khan, where maybe he just tried to go straight down the ground because he thought the ball was full, and we have seen him play that shot before, but that was just slightly fuller than that half volley length in my view. And it wasn't a great shot. It was just, I thought, especially the first ball of Avesh Khan's quota. Maybe he thought the last over of the power play, it was close to that half volley kind of delivery, but it was still a terrible shot, and it was an unneeded thing for the Rajasthan Royals, especially with the form that Butler's in. And then a bit of a partnership of, a partnership of 18 between Padikkal and Samson, and a jammy wicket for Holder. I mean, if the decision had been given as not out, then Samson wouldn't have been out, and that delivery was not a great one. It was a leg stump full toss, but it had moved quite a bit to the leg stump, and that's probably why Samson found it difficult to play. The umpire raised his finger, and Samson was dismissed for 13. So a huge wicket for 2 huge wickets for the Lucknow Super Giants. And really, at this point, I thought in the 60s, they lost 3 wickets, and that was something that put them in a bit of jeopardy. Samson, then Padikkal, who had slowed down quite a bit. After at one point he was 19 off 12. And in the next 17 deliveries, he only scored 10 runs. And that's something where that he's probably is going to have to improve on. I mean, uh, I guess they picked him over Jaiswal based on form, but certainly for the most part we've seen, apart from maybe that innings against the Rajasthan Royals, that century against the Rajasthan Royals, he mostly has scored at a decent strike rate, but not a blistering one. And today he did slow down quite a bit, so I think that he'll probably want to keep that in mind. And especially after he took Ravi Bishnoi, in fact, I actually want to get to Bishnoi because after he took Ravi Bishnoi for quite a few runs at the start, he only gave 29 runs in 4 overs all in all, so great comeback from him. And then the other dismissals, I thought Van der Dussen dismissed by Krishnappa Gautam for 4 of 4, a ball that kind of skidded through to hit the off stump. It was quite a good delivery. That Padikkale's dismissal a bit audacious to say the least, trying to attempt to reverse sweep the first ball of facing a bowler that hadn't bowled a delivery before this one. And yeah, 67 for 4. And this was another case of the Rajasthan Royals flirting with danger because they had Shimron Hetmyer, and then at number 6 they had R. Ashwin to walk out because they were already flirting with danger because of their lack of batting depth. I mean, after Riyan Parag, they have such a long tail, and that's the reason why you'd think that they had to have a big partnership to really make sure that tail doesn't get exposed too soon. R. Ashwin walked out instead of Parag. I think it's because they would have backed Ashwin in this situation in a more of a tough situation to walk out and play that recovery knock, which he did admirably well. And him and Shimron Hetmyer got them from 67 for 4 to 135 for 4. With, in the end, that wicket wasn't actually a wicket. It was because Ashwin was the first player to be retired out in the IPL. Again, it seemed to be a tactical move. I thought they did it quite late, which also said something as to how much they trust Riyan Parag. I think that, well, they've trusted him to face 4 balls, that too out of the last 10. So I think that they really wanted to. They probably still don't trust him to walk out at number 6 when, let's say, the side are 67 for 4 like they were today, and that's the reason why Ashwin. He did an admirable job, but I thought for Riyan Parag, they really don't seem to trust him at all. I mean, they don't bowl him, and when he bats, he just faces 4 balls when they've completed the recovery job somewhat, with Hetmyer preparing to go through the gears and, well, yeah, starting to go through the gears. So I think it just showed they don't exactly trust Riyan Parag, and I'm not sure how he's going to take that because I think that when you've got him slotted in at number 6, you'd expect him to take responsibility from that situation. I'm sure he would have wanted to walk out at 67 for 4, but yet he didn't. And I remember in IPL 2019, I think, him and Steve Smith, yes, it wasn't this situation, but they won a game for the Rajasthan Royals chasing 150 odd, I think, against KKR when they had lost quite a few wickets, and him and Smith batted really well to win the game for the Rajasthan Royals. So he can play in those pressure situations, and that's the reason why I was surprised why. Yes, I understand why they sent Ashwin out, but I just think the fact that they don't trust Riyan Parag this much would certainly not go. I wouldn't exactly think he'd have been too happy about that. And on Hetmyer's innings, it was an outstanding innings. What I really enjoyed was him hitting down the ground and over mid wicket, 2 zones, which he favours quite a lot. Really taking a toll on Jason Holder. And after Shimron Hetmyer's catch being dropped by Krunal Pandya, that was a key moment in the game because pretty much after 92 for 4 and 15 overs, they scored 73 runs in the last 5, courtesy of Shimron Hetmyer. Ashwin started it off by hitting 2 back-to-back sixes of Krishnappa Gautam, but apart from that, Shimron Hetmyer 6 sixes, 1 4, and he's got 330 odd scores and 159. I mean, I thought he was the best player at. I think he batted number 6 for the Delhi Capitals last season, where he really played those finishing knocks. I thought he was the best player at that position in the previous season. and he's not failed at all so far. He's scored 3 30s and a 59 in a side that doesn't have batting depth. He's walked in at integral situations, whether to put the icing on the cake or to play that recovery innings. He's played that innings and also counter-attacked at the end. So I think he's been outstanding. 42 in the last game for him, 59 for him in this one. And yeah, it's outstanding innings from him. And what that drop did was it really... If that catch was taken, Riyan Parag would have walked out at 92 for 5. And you would have thought that, look, he got out for 8 of 4 in this one. Yes, he hasn't faced too many deliveries at all. But there would have been a greater chance of breaking this partnership than with Hetmyer still batting. Had one of Ashwin and Parag got out, you had the tail to bat, and they would have probably been chasing 120 or 130 odd, so at most. So I think LSG really missed a trick with their fielding today. That one vital drop catch really making a game out of things. And for the bowlers, Chamira outstanding, none for 22 and 4. I talked about the fact that I was really happy that he bowled 3 overs up front especially. I thought he could have bowled the 4th, but even his 4th over was outstanding. Jason Hovo, I'll get to him last, because Bishnoi, a great comeback from him, none for 29 is 4. Avesh Khan, 1 for 31 and 4, overall conceding less than the... you could say the overall score, but at the same time, I still think we haven't seen that quality of bowling from him. The first over was decent, but apart from that, we haven't exactly seen the quality of bowling from him. He gave 29 runs in his last 3 overs. Krishnappa Gautam, once again a good game from him. I thought that after his first over, he also giving 27 runs, but again, he put his side in a great position after that 2-wicket over, and yet they somehow didn't capitalize on that. So those are those 4, and Jason Horder, 2 for 50 in his 4, an incredible off day for him. And I think that I've said this before, I don't consider Jason Horder as one of the 3 seamers preferably. I thought Marcus Stoinis should have bowled today, and Jason Horder can bowl 4 overs on his day, but I see whenever he bowls in T20 cricket especially, he doesn't really seem to have much of a plan. I think especially when he bowls at the death, it just... Quite a few of the time, even when he got those 4 wickets and 4 balls against England, it was a bit jammy, let's be honest. And today's performance, even the wicket that he got of Samson was quite jammy. And even the one that he got off Riyan Parag as well. So I just think that there is that risk with Jason Horder bowling in the T20 format. I think he's bowled more as a batsman. He offers that batting solidity. But I just thought that I was surprised. I was really surprised Marcus Stoinis didn't bowl today. I thought that him and Avesh Khan would take death bowling duties, with Jason Horder sometimes sitting in those overs, but this not being as if he does this on a regular basis. And today, again, they paid the price. I mean, Jason Horder in this format, in tests, he's magnificent, but I think especially in this one, he doesn't really have a plan when he bowls, especially when he bowls at the end. So that's the reason why I think that, especially at the death overs, it was a bit of a risk bowling him, despite the fact that he hasn't been too bad so far before this game. 2 for 15 4 and 165 for 6. Rajasthan Royals really had something to play with, and I thought that they could defend this score because of how the pitch was, and how if the Rajasthan Royals' desired template comes off, then you would give them quite a bit of a chance to defend this score. And the Lucknow Super Giants were still favourites in my view. I think that with the batting app that they've got and with the frailties of Rajasthan Royals in the death bowling department, I still thought that they would win this game. But the first ball, really, Trent ball going around the wicket and the off-stump cartwheeling, KL Rahul's off-stump cartwheeling, a first ball duck for him. I guess the one against Mohammad Shami, quite an unplayable delivery. Even this one, quite a hard one to play, but a gap between bat and pad, the ball swung sharply in, and trying to flick the ball to mid-wicket or down to the long on, or kind of a mid-wicket, or to you could say the long on fielder if there was a long on. And he was bowled in the end, a first ball duck. A bit of a blow for the Lucknow Super Giants, but as I said, this batting lineup is so good that I thought that they could win the game even without Rahul scoring a run. And I'm sorry, the decision to send out Krishnappa Gautam, I don't understand it. 0 of 1, wasted not too much time. In fact, the only reason why he lasted for 3 minutes at the crease is because there was a wide ball. Probably he would have lasted for at max, at most a minute or even less than that if it was the one legal delivery, because 0 of 1, This is just, I didn't understand this at all. You have Marcus Stoinis batting at number 8, and the player who's supposed to bat at number 8 somehow walks out at number 3. For what? To counter attack after 0 for 1 when you have such a batting lineup. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Especially with they could have just played their cards, but just weathered the storm. And with their best players to make sure they don't lose more wickets, although they also didn't make life easy for themselves either. For example, Deepak Huda with his horrible shot, honestly. But Marcus Stoinis at number 3 or someone else at number 3 would have made more sense. I just do not understand Krishna Bhagotham walking out at all. How did they think he was going to survive in those swinging conditions at number 3 against Trent Boult? It was just ridiculous. And again, the next partnership didn't last too long either. Jason Holder and Quinton de Kock. Yes, it's a quality duo, but Jason Holder being dismissed by rising delivery from Prasidh Krishna, caught by Ravichandran Ashwin. Apparently, he's been dismissed in that way quite a few times in the recent past. And honestly, it looked a bit more, I guess aesthetically, it was kind of that dismissal would have, I thought, been worse for another player that was quite a bit shorter, which is kind of most players in the world. If, let's say, a Prithvi Shaw had been dismissed that way, it wouldn't have exactly been too aesthetically pleasing. I think the dismissal didn't look too bad because of how tall Jason Holder is and the fact that it pretty much almost went just above waist height, and it did kind of rise a bit. So a good delivery to Bow, and Jason Holder a huge wicket at that stage. He was dismissed for 8 off 14, but 14 for 3, I still thought the Super Giants would win this because of the players that they've got. Quinton de Kock was strike deprived for quite a few. Quinton de Kock was quite strike deprived for his innings. I mean, Deepak Huda faced 24 balls fairly quickly before Quinton de Kock could face 32. And that partnership was going okay. I mean, they were 52 in 9 overs, and the ball after the strategic timeout. I mean, this shot made Josh Butler's dismissal look not too bad. I don't know what he was thinking. He was going so well, Deepak Huda, the best form of his life that he's in right now. And had he just continued batting with Quinton de Kock, they would have won this game. I mean, if you looked at, after making life so difficult for themselves, they still only lost by 3 runs. So they would have won this game, and yet that terrible shot was unfolded. Ayush Badoni being dismissed, not really scoring too many runs in the partnership, 5 out of the next 22 runs, but dismissed off Yuzvendra Chahal, who he had a mixed bag today. I think with the wickets he was top class, and he did give 41 runs, though quite above the required run rate for this chase. So again, a mixed bag from him, but with the wickets I thought he was superb. And yeah, Krunal Pandya being dismissed by Yuzvendra Chahal after hitting 2 boundaries, but then just walked too far across his stumps, exposing all his stumps. It was a terrible shot, honestly. And that's what I mean by they didn't make life easy for themselves at all. They've got such a good batting lineup, and yet they get out in these ways, especially with the likes of Deepak Huda and Krunal Pandya, where you just think they've got such a good batting lineup. It takes them so long to be actually counted out of a game, and even then they lost by 3 runs. So if they just managed themselves a bit better, they would have certainly won this game. And it was up to Marcus Stoinis in the end. 38 of 17 he scored, almost doing the job himself towards the end, and it was a bit touch and go. Had one of those swings, the ball that was kind of angling a bit wider from Kuldeep Sen, who had death bowling duties in his first ever IPL game, and a bit touch and go from the kind of from that perspective. Some good deliveries, some of them slightly missing that Yorker length, but luckily for him, Marcus Stoinis missed those deliveries, and in the end, a 3-run loss for the Super Giants. And regarding the Rajasthan Royals perspective, I think that the fact that the death bowling is terrible, it didn't really, it almost lost them a game today as well. And they really would have been happy that Kuldeep Sen, 1 for 35 in his 4, stood up in that last over, because I think looking through their roster, it's going to be a problem that they have. They wouldn't really want to play that second overseas seamer, because they can't play Rassi van der Dussen or Jimmy Neesham. And that's where they're going to have to go with the attack that they have now. And I think that they should include that 6th bowler in Jimmy Neesham, maybe in place of Van der Dussen. But Kuldeep Sen standing up in the end, death bowling duties from him. Rajasthan was almost losing this game, but certainly he bowled with great pace today. And yeah, Rajasthan Royals won this game by 3 runs, quite a close shave in the end. And I think this bowling plan for them and KKR is incredibly unsustainable. And I wouldn't be surprised if KKR don't qualify. And Rajasthan Royals certainly don't look as good as how they looked after, let's say, the first 2 games. But yeah, I think this is a problem that we know that both those sides are going to have to deal with, and they don't really seem to have other players in their roster that can step up in these situations. In that case, it's so important that these domestic players deliver in these situations, and Kuldeep Sen did do quite well today. So, bowled a vital last over, and Rajasthan was winning this game by 3 runs, and so let's see what happens in the next game tomorrow. An interesting game, the Gujarat Titans versus the Sunrisers Hyderabad at the DY Patil Stadium, which off late has proven to be a bit of a tough go in batting. I think it has been slightly on the slower side, and if you get close to that 160 score, you can make a game out of it. And so yeah, it depends who's gonna. It'll be interesting to see who can win tomorrow. I still think SRH's batting lineup. I know they won against CSK, but they still want that convincing performance in tomorrow's game to really stamp down the resurrection of their batting lineup. Certainly went really well in their previous game. And the Gujarat Titans, once again, I still think their batting lineup is frail. So very good bowling attacks from these two, but I just think if the Titans bat first and get a score, and the Sunrise Hyderabad are coming up against not an unthreatening Chennai attack, but against the best attack of the tournament, it'll be quite interesting to see how they go. And even for the Titans, if Sunrisers get 160, they'll also find it a bit difficult to chase against that attack. So I think that the side that bats first has a huge advantage in that game tomorrow, but let's see how that goes. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, share this video with your friends, and remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?